All right. So we're off. Where do we end off, Bill?
Can I kick it off?
Yeah, please.
Okay, we're going to go on the original manuscript, and we will be on the second last page.
So our troubles? Selfishness?
No, I want to start. This is the how and the why of it again.
Okay.
This is the how and the why of it.
Halfway down the page. Third full paragraph.
Okay.
You have one of these? Everyone have one of these? I'm looking at people looking around. There are additional copies at the back of the room, okay?
Yeah. Okay. This is the how and the why of it. What I want you to notice in the literature writing here is Bill W., the author of the big book, he writes very specifically, and he writes like intentionally trying to get certain points across. And whenever you read the big book, really look at how he's writing sentences and, you know, what he's doing to emphasize things, because there's a lot more to gain from understanding how he writes. And this is a really good paragraph to kind of emphasize that. This is the how and the why of it, period. First of all, quit playing God yourself. In the regular big book, it says we had to stop playing God. This one doesn't say that. It says quit playing God yourself. Stop. Well, what is playing God? Well, we read in the previous chapter on the previous session about the actor trying to run the show, right? Trying to arrange the lights, the camera, the ballet, the rest of the players in his own way. If people would only do as he wished, right? It was kind of like with my family, like I wish they would have done things the way that I wanted to do them. And there was a lot of conflict as me as a father and me as a husband. And they never really did shit the way that I wanted them to. Well, they were trying to live, and they still do sometimes, because they still have like a lot of the body memory of how I used to be, and I've changed a lot. But sometimes they can still get caught in the old body memory, right? But you know, I didn't give them a script of how I needed them to be. So they were constantly trying to, you know, live a certain way and do certain things. But they're their own person, and they're not going to do it the way that I wanted them to. So I built a lot of resentment, and my anger would come up, and it would cause problems within the family. You know, it caused problems my whole life, because no one did what I wanted them to do the way that I wanted them to do, because I never gave them a script, and they can't possibly read my fucking mind, right? It's like when you're in a relationship and, you know, that person does something and you're like, you don't even understand me? Like, I shouldn't even have to tell you why I'm mad at you. Like, half the time when my one girlfriend, there's one in my mind, she would come at me with all these things. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, literally, I had no idea what she was trying to say, but she was sure that I knew. And I couldn't read her mind. And then she would tell me finally, and I'm like, fuck, why didn't you just tell me while that was happening? Well, you should know. No, man, I'm just trying to live my life the best that I can. I don't know what your acting is trying to get me to do, like, right? But that's kind of like what the actor is trying to talk about. It's like, you know, trying to mind and emotionally manipulate people, getting resentful because they're not living up to the way that you want them to, or doing the things that you want them to. You know, a good example, and we'll really get into all this stuff in step 6, is like when you send a text message, you don't realize it, but there's so much selfish and self-centeredness involved in a text message, especially if it's your partner or somebody you're trying to become partners with, because you're sending self in it and you're expecting a response that if you don't get it the way that you want it, it hits an emotion in you, and then you react a different way, and then you send back something else that's probably not good for the relationship. And really all it is it's my pride and fear and insecurity sending you a message of insecurity, and then your pride and insecurity messages me back. So you got pride, boom, fucking hitting pride, and like nothing gets accomplished, right? Except for blame and resentment and all sorts of shit. So when we get to step 6, well, I'll really talk about this, but I really try to teach a lot of my sponsees. I'm like, look at the text that you wrote before you press send and ask yourself, is it neutral? Like, is it neutral? Like, don't say, hey, I was hoping that you're going to come over for dinner this weekend. I haven't seen you for 3 weeks. There's so much expectation and demand in that, where it's more like, you know what, if you're free this weekend, you know, we haven't spent much time together. If you're free, why don't you stop by? And if not, that's okay too. I know you got a busy life. You leave it neutral, and you actually give them an opportunity to respond properly. And if you work like that, eventually they will want to come and see you. Yeah. But if you keep sending those kind of messages, it's like, I don't even fucking want to go see them. Like, Jesus. It makes sense though, right? It's so true. And so, like, getting acutely in tuned with selfish, self-centeredness, self-seeking, and self-pity. And look at like the text that you might send that would be full of self-pity. You know, that part in the text I just said, you know, I haven't seen you in a long time. I thought we were best friends. Blah, 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 blah. Who wants that shit in their life?
WTF, right? LOL. Right? Why do we always do that? We say something shitty and they go LOL. If you're going to be shitty, own it. Or don't be shitty. Like laughing at it makes it okay, right?
So basically, the actor is what we read about last week, and now we're getting into, like, it says, quit playing God yourself. Quit doing this shit. But you can't quit doing it because you haven't seen it at this point in recovery yet, because it's only at step 3. It doesn't work, period. And I just explained a couple little instances that don't really work. Next, decide that hereafter in this drama of life, God is going to be your director. And think about the line, the drama of life. What does drama remind you of?
A play.
A play, right? So, you know how many times I've heard in recovery, well, this is just my personality. This is just who I am. This is how I am. This is my personality. You know where the word personality came from? Came from the word persona. You know where the word persona came from? Came from like the Greeks, or, you know, way back in time when they would do these plays in those amphitheaters. So the people would put on a mask and they called it the persona. Then they would go and do the play. So the word personality actually comes from persona, which means wearing a mask. So a lot of our personalities are actually wearing masks, right? Which is why we're spiritually sick. There ain't one person that I've ever done a step 5 with that I can't say they weren't able to live who they were truly meant to be. But they don't know that until you uncover it and you discover it and then you recover it, like who you are. But that doesn't come just because you want to. It comes through like processes, stripping off layers of fear and guilt and shame and personality stuff. Doesn't come just because you want to be sober in recovery and you want to change. It doesn't fucking come because you want it. It comes if you follow the directions in the book. One of the things that I emphasized in the study was this original manuscript, and it talked about directions. If you want what we have, you're ready to follow directions. Rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our directions. Directions, 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 okay? So I'm just going to keep saying that for the next fucking 6 weeks until the study's over. But step 10 is the set of directions. Step 4, which we're going to get into tonight, is the set of directions. And if you follow the directions, step 11 in the big book, which is page 86 to 88, it's not just a reading that you read and you kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to pause when I'm agitated or doubtful. That's right. There's a set of directions in there that's hidden there. And the goal is to be in tune with, like, what is the directions in this book saying? And then do that. Do that. And we're talking about a spiritual program of action. And again, I'll say ritual. The word ritual in the dictionary says a ceremony that's performed over and over and over. So you perform these ceremonies. Spiritual matters for us is everything, right? right? So we're performing these rituals, these ceremonies, these directions over and over and over, and it creates spiritual. So we start living on a different basis because we're changing through the actual ceremonies of ritual, of whatever the directions are in the book. And we can add other things to it as well. Okay. He is the director. He is the principal. You are to be his agent. He is the father. You are his child. Get that simple relationship straight. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept, anyone know what that means? Definition? Huh? Belief, idea. Okay? That's exactly what a concept is. It's an idea. So it's saying most good ideas are simple, so it's kind of giving you that right off the bat. And this concept, this idea, which one? Well, the one that God is now my father and I'm his agent. He's the director and I work for God. That's the concept. That's the idea. Okay? This is the keystone of the new and triumphant arch, which we pass through to freedom. So this is like the main piece that holds it together as we pass through the freedom of the bondage of self, the bondage of that selfishness and self-centeredness and the fear and all that stuff. But we won't really see that at this point in our journey because that doesn't really come until we open up step 4. So when you sincerely take such a position, so now it's saying when you actually sincerely take it. So a lot of you guys have heard me talk in the program about God being a theory. If God's a theory, you're fucking drunk. Remember that. Like drill that into your head. And think about that in your life when God's actually a theory.
Explain to them, Bill, what that means, because it's important.
It means that God's just an idea. So when you think about in the chapter, There's a Solution, where Roland Hazard was talking with Carl Jung. Roland Hazard was the real hopeless alcoholic like us. And he went and saw Carl Jung, who was the world's second most profound psychologist at that time. And he said he spent that year with Carl, and then he was like, fuck, I got this. I'm going to be sober. I know I am. And he left the doctor and didn't even make it on the boat to get home to America. And he drank, and he went back to the doctor, and he said, dude, what the hell? I fucking drank. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to drink, man. I don't want to hire a bodyguard. I don't want to be locked up. I want to live sober. And Carl Jung looks at him and says, fuck, I'm sorry, bro. I don't have anything for you. I can't help you. You're one of those. And Roland's like, I'm one of what? You're one of those hopeless alcoholics. Although the methods that I've employed are very helpful for most people, the alcoholics of your description, I can't help. I'm sorry, bro. And Roland was fucking scared. He's like, no, man, you got to help me. You're the only thing that's ever gotten me sober. Please, he begs the doctor, it says in the book. Please, you got to help me. And the doctor said, I got nothing. And then in the book, it says the gates of hell closed on him with a clang. And what happened? Roland knew that he was fucked because he didn't know how to stay sober. And he just proved it again. Powerlessness over the first drink. And then doctor said, okay, I've heard of these things. And he's like, what is it? What is it? Tell me. He's like, they're called vital spiritual experiences. Okay, spiritual experience. What is that? Back of the book. It says it's a personality change sufficient to overcome alcoholism. So we got to change who we are because the old me, the old brain, the way it's wired, it goes for the relief when I can't take it anymore. And no matter how much I've learned about this illness, no matter how many meetings I go to, no matter how much I do, if I don't change, this is a good idea. And suddenly, like Fred's story, suddenly, he thought it would be a good idea to have a couple whiskeys in his mouth. And then started one more trip to the asylum for Fred or Jim. And then Jim's story is no different, right? But in both those stories, it says all went well for a while. All always goes good for a while when you get sober because you're fucking in treatment or you got enough willpower to fucking make it a few months. But if you don't change, that day comes and you're drunk and you're like, how did this happen? I would have sworn on a lie detector test 3 months ago that I was never doing this again. Yeah, well, you don't have the power to choose. You don't have that choice. You've lost the choice of drink, man. So, and why I'm saying all this is because back to the roller hazard story.
Okay.
When Carl was explaining to Roland, like the vital spiritual experience, he said, listen, bro, I'm going to tell you what's up. This is what it is. It's not just something that you think about that you're going to have and you're going to be fixed. This is what it is, and it takes works. And he says emotions, displacement, and rearrangements. So emotional displacement and rearrangement. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes that have been the guiding forces of the lives of us. What guides us need to be exposed, cast aside for a new set of concepts and motivations to dominate us. And so Roland's like, fuck, I'm Catholic, man. I'm Christian.
This is good news.
It's good news, man. I got this. And in the book it says, Carl destroyed his hopes by saying, although your religious beliefs, your religious ideas, your religious concepts, your theory of God is great, bro, but it does not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience that you need. So what are we saying? God resides within us, but there's so much shit packing up God in us. And when we get into the 4, that's the beginning of the uncovering God inside of us. Want to add anything?
Yeah, that's just to simplify everything, because there's a lot of information you just heard there. But the reason I wanted that spelled out again is because he's going to talk about this theory of God a lot. I even struggle with remembering what it is sometimes. And what it is well, like Roland Hazard going, oh, thank God. I believe in God. I'm going to be okay. No. That's the theory. That's the theory of God, or the concept. It's as simple as that. Your belief in a higher power, or that one exists, is not enough. And then right here where we were reading is taking it to the next level. It is taking it to that step 3 level where we turn our will and our life over to the care of God by making him our director, by making him the principal, by being his agent, and so on and so forth, right? I have to realize that I messed up my life bad enough that God needs to be the boss. There's no more Gord being the boss. That's as simple as I can give it to you. Any questions? That's pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. You guys feel me, everyone?
Anyone know what step it is where we turn it over? Mm-hmm. The practical action step of turning our will over to God. 10. 10 is step 3 in live action. Okay. We're going to go there right now because I think it's a good time. If you can open your big book quickly to page 84.
We did this last week too.
We did this.
Which is good. Repetition is awesome.
Roger. Do you want to take this paragraph and I'll follow you up?
Yeah.
Or I take it and you follow me up?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Actually, you got a plan.
Middle of the page. Again, I want you to keep your eye on, and if you have a pen, circle the continues, vigorously commenced. Those ones are really important. And there's 4 continues in this paragraph. So this is basically step 3 in live action, but it comes later, okay? You have to go through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 before you get here. And then when you are doing this step, you're actually doing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you're actually doing 3. I'm turning my will and my life over to the care of God here.
Why can't we do it at step 4? Because I believed it was at step 4 for a long time. The decision, yeah, do we have a mic runner? Oh, you got it. Go ahead then, Arch. Hey, rock and roll. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to fix, so how can I fix something if I don't know what it is?
Exactly. Thank you. It's exactly it. We don't know what's blocking us. Right? The decision in step 3 is putting pen to paper. It's going through the process of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and learning how to let God show us. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, it's like when you do step 3 and you've never done the steps before, even if you have done the steps before, if you do step 3 and you've decided that you've just turned your will and your life over to the care of God, no, the fuck you haven't. You do not know what your will is. Your intention and your willingness to want to do that might be there, but you don't really know what your will is.
But in all fairness, every single one of us thought that we were there at that point, right? Every single one of us.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay? But you will learn your will to begin with at step 4. And then as you work the program, you get better at it. So anyway, Step 10.
This thought
brings us to step 10, which we continue to take personal inventory. And we continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously began this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered into the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. This should continue for our lifetime. And again, here it is. This is your clear-cut directions of what step 10 is practically applied. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. First of all, you got to be aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling. If you aren't aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling, then fucking all bets are off. You're probably drinking. Because that's the first step. That's what step 4 teaches us. That's what step 5 teaches us. What are the things that are causing my failure? How am I interacting with the world? That's why I drink. It's the character defects that are representative of the instincts gone astray. That is the primary cause of our destructive drinking and failure at life. Unless you're willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will elude you. All the faulty foundation of your life has to be torn out, self, and built upon a new bedrock, fucking God. But the program doesn't teach you what God's will is. The program teaches you what your will is, and don't do it. We had to quit playing God, period. It doesn't work. Well, we got a solution for that. The only problem is you ain't going to get what you fucking want. Anyway, let's keep going. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, boom, first step in the solution. We ask God to remove them at once. Second step in the solution, we discuss it with somebody immediately. Third step in the solution, we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Fourth step in the solution, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. So when we're aware, we can catch it. We ask God to remove it. We discuss it with somebody immediately. Let's just say, I want to steal something. Okay, I'm a kleptomaniac. I've stole shit my whole life, and I'm presented with a real easy opportunity to steal something. And I really want to stay sober, but most of my life I've been in crime and doing fucking shady shit like that. And like I'm there and I'm like, holy shit, this is so easy. I could get that. I could get like $3,000 for that fucking ring right there. Holy shit. And then I'm like, no, I can't do that. Fuck, I want to do that. Fuck. You know, the battle, it's on in our head. Usually we would do it. The problem with you doing that is you just dishonored the fucking God part of you, so you create actually more sickness when you act out in that. So if we're trying to stay sober, it's like, okay, fuck, I don't want to do that. God, please help me right now. Help me. So you'll go to God and you'll pray. And then maybe you'll go call somebody right away. And as soon as you call that person, the guy's going to talk some sense into you. He's going to show you some things. Then you won't need to make the amends and you can resolutely turn your thoughts. So that's like a dumb example, really. There's many other better ones that we'll get into. But this is the essence of a step 10. You didn't get what you wanted, which was the ring, which was going to be the money because you're broke and you need the money, so you didn't get it. So then you go see your sponsor after that, but you didn't act out in the defect. But then you're like, well, dude, I'm still broke. I'm still poor. I got no money to eat food or catch the bus. The issue that you don't understand at this stage of your recovery is the lesson lies within you being fucking broke. Accepting things. Learning how to accept and be okay with things. As long as you got a roof over your head and these kinds of things, and maybe you don't even have a roof over your head. But I honestly believe if you take the path of really wanting to change, the universe will line up whatever it is that you need, not what you want. So, step 3 in live action is step 10. And notice it doesn't say God's will. But at the end of that process, when I didn't steal the ring, what happened? The principles were the results. The principles of courage. I did something and relied on my Creator and one of His fellows to help me get through that. You know, my honesty of listening to the good side of me. The integral side, that rigorous honesty, not lying to myself and coming up with some rationalized reason why to steal that thing, and then living on that rationalized reason. And then there was integrity in there. There was some love, self-love, and there was some respect for the other person's property. So the principles are the result of the process. It's not necessarily that you got to remember, oh, this is a principle, I got to practice honesty right now. Oh, I got to be kind right now. I'm trying to be an asshole, so, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be kind. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You know, like, that's not what we're doing. It's to identify, no, I'm being a dick and I don't really want to be kind. And then asking God to remove that, sitting quietly, talking to my pillar maybe quickly, resolutely turning my thoughts to someone I can help. That's such an important piece. And so I'm going to pray for that guy that it really was annoying me, that I wasn't really being kind to, and maybe I did fake it. But later when I leave and I look at this process, the resolutely turning my thoughts to someone I can help, we all know that we're supposed to pray for other people in the program. Do anyone know what resolutely means? In an admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering manner. So if you were watching somebody who didn't like this guy and they really took the time to pray, really fucking like conscientiously, to ask Creator to take his judgment away and his dislike for this man, that'd be admirable. In an admirable, purposeful, this guy's really trying to change. He's got purpose behind it. Purposeful, determined, unwavering manner. And you pray on that piece for more than 30 seconds. Because we all know to pray for others, but we'll only pray for like 5 seconds. 5-second prayer does fuck all. The longer your prayer, the better and more it hits the change in your subconscious. And then we're growing. We're changing the personality. And we're doing step 3. And you won't get what you want. But through not getting what you want anyways, that's where you learn the lessons, man. The lessons need to be learned because the lessons are actually you healing. So, that makes sense? Anything? Okay, back to the original manuscript. So when you sincerely take such a position, that's step 10 is I'm sincere, man. I'm fucking doing it. And notice it said continue, 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 continue. That means don't fucking do it your way. It means let's do it this way and let's continue to do this and let's be aware every time a thought comes up. It's like a step 6. Any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults. That's what we're doing in that 10. Okay. So when we sincerely, honestly took such a position that we really want to fucking change, then all sorts of remarkable things followed. You will have a new employer. Being all powerful, he must necessarily provide what you need. So if I got a new employer and his name's God, his name's higher power, his name is, I don't even know what it is, but it's something out there. That's my boss. That's my boss. And if he's my employer, he's got to pay me. So what it says is he's going to pay me with what I need. But what work do I got to do? What do I got to do to earn my pay? I got to stay close to him, keep close to him, perform his work well. Those are the things that I got to do to get my pay from Creator. And if I do those things to the best of my ability and I really try to change, he will give me the roof over my head. He will give me the people in my path that I need to learn how to grow and learn from, that can take care of me and help me start to love myself. And that relationship, when sincerely taken, will grow. And like the book says, it'll become the most important relationship of your life, which it has become that for me. Okay. Established on such a footing. Okay. So back in We Agnostics, it said, upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure could be built. Cornerstone goes in the footing of a foundation. So the cornerstone is like the piece that fucking we build from. And when you look up the word foundation, the definition is from which all things are built from. So if God is the foundation and he's the cornerstone, what's the cornerstone? Am I willing to believe or do I believe? So now when we learn how to turn our will over, that God, the theory of, yeah, do you want to believe in him? And then I follow the fucking process. Now I'm fixing that cornerstone and putting this piece of my footing in. And how do I put the footing in? Every circumstance, every situation. I get an opportunity to put the cornerstone in place. Because it's one thing to believe in God. That cornerstone floats. I just believe in God. I'm going to pray and fucking I'm going to do his will. No, when you follow the directions and you're doing these things in real life, boom, you solidify that foundation in place every situation. And that's why in the We Agnostics, I also said, what is this but a miracle of healing? Circumstances made him willing to believe. It's the circumstances that you go through in life. If you're willing to believe and bring God in, that will be the miracle of healing. And you will learn acceptance. And I'll say it again. Nothing fucking terrible in your life is put in your life to make your life more terrible. It's actually put in your life to make your life better. You just don't fucking see it yet because you haven't woken up. But it's there to make your life better. So don't go down the rabbit hole of fucking life's not treating me right. I just got to say something. I'm trying not to swear tonight.
You're failing.
It's not working.
It's okay,
I'm
bud.
fucking really trying. I was. I'm disappointing myself because I'm trying. I just don't know how to stop. I need more God in that part of my life, I guess. Get a dog collar.
While there's a second here, I want to apologize to the people in the pen and on Zoom. I know that your screens are freezing up, guys, and we're trying to figure it out. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It's we're trying to figure it out. So sorry, guys. All right.
Okay, I'll finish this paragraph off. Established on such a footing, God's the footing, you will become less and less interested in yourself. The pride and personality don't like that idea. It's very scary when we start changing because we're like, who the fuck are we going to be then? Don't worry about that. You'll become someone much better. In yourself, your little plans and designs. More and more, you'll become interested in seeing what you can contribute to life. As you feel new power flow in, as you enjoy some peace of mind, as you discover you can face all of life's challenges successfully, you become conscious of his presence and you begin to lose your fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. You have been reborn. That sounds very corny.
It's not.
When I first did that with my sponsor, I was like, are you trying to fucking brainwash me? It sounds like I'm back in church in like grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. And I went to Catholic school and I had to do mass every week and all that stuff. And it just wasn't for me, but I didn't choose what school I went to. My mom put me in school, right? So I went to whatever school. Sparkles. It's about time. So anyway,
it's funny because the first time I heard you say in the Victim Magnum stuff, it freaked me out too. So
Victim Magnum?
Wow. Yeah. It's like, whoa, because we're not used to it.
Yeah,
we're not used to it, right? We don't know what's in store for us, and we always shy away from new things, right? Even though this new thing can change our lives dramatically.
And I want to add, at about 18 months, I had a huge awakening, and I reread this line with a sponsee, and I was reborn. So it went from this judgment thing and to like, fuck, I got a second chance at my life, man. And I really felt, because I had changed so much, that I had a new life. I really believe I'm living two lives in one. One was the way that I wanted. God gave me my own free will like he gives everybody, and we live our life however we want. And everyone has the gift of free will from Creator. I didn't do very good with mine. I hurt a lot of people, and I fucked up my life pretty good in other people's lives. And then I came here and I did this work, and something hit me, and I said, now I want to live my life the way Creator wants me to. Mm-hmm. And so, like these promises that we just read in step 3, we'll see how we want to be helpful to the world, what we can pack into the stream of life. Like that shit's all happening. I never thought that would be like that, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So that's all I got on that.
You know, I think that the only thing that I want to add, because I chipped in, and chimed in a little bit on the whole moral convictions and the theory of God, and you guys all understood it. I'm really happy. I'm really happy about that, you guys, because that was the hardest thing for me to understand. Was, well, what does that mean? What is the theory? How do I turn my will and my life over? I don't understand. I just don't understand. And at 10 and 11 and 12, I still didn't understand. And I got through a year. I started sponsoring guys, and nobody was really getting better. Guys would read a chapter with me. Maybe they'd make it 2 or 3, and they'd be gone again. And a lot of those guys died. Finally, I talked to my sponsor, and I said, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm supposed to be helping. Why am I failing? And he said, are you still sober? And I said, yeah. He said, then you're doing nothing wrong and you're not failing. And in that moment, I felt good about that. Today, I don't see that way anymore. No offense to my sponsor. Today, I feel like that's a very selfish outlook. And I've gone forward and learned more. And I've read this book with people so many times that God has saw fit to pay me. Just on the back of what Bill was saying, being my employer, God has given me what I need. And does everybody get better? No, absolutely not. But I'll tell you something, a lot of guys are. One of them sitting in this room right now, and I get to see that light come on in that guy's eyes. And that's a gift, man. It's not about me. I'm staying sober because I'm enlarging on my spiritual life. I'm staying sober and getting a good life because I'm open to being wrong. I'm open to understanding I have defects of character that I have no control over. I've been going through some anxiety lately, and I've been saying the step 3 prayer every morning for weeks now, and I was looking forward to step 3 to share this with you guys because it's real. And the bottom line is the lesson that fell out of it from step 10. Bill's absolutely right. From step 10, turning my will over to God and letting him discipline me as my employer, as my father, if you will. I've learned that I was an asshole. I was an asshole to somebody, you know? And it doesn't matter that that guy's an asshole, because justifiable anger, it says that in the next chapter we're going to read, or the next portion we're going to read in this chapter. Justifiable anger is not something that I can afford because it has the power to kill me. So it doesn't matter how that guy behaves. I forgot who I was. I forgot that my whole purpose in life today, because it's grace, it's a gift that I've never deserved. My dad is to help others and be more effective, to be kind. And it says it right here about being tolerant to others is our code. Well, I wasn't tolerant to that guy. And now guess what? I get to have a meeting with his boss in Ontario and my vendor manager, you know, who's from Ontario, and I got to have conversations with my VP in Ontario about this guy, and you know, fortunately people know who I am. They know that I'm a pretty caring, nice guy, right? So they see that there's a problem. Doesn't make it right for me to go in and say he's the problem either, right? When I give myself to God, I have to be open to seeing my flaws. I have to be open to correcting my behaviors as God would have me do. And that's not easy. That may mean that I don't get to do work with these guys anymore. That may mean that, you know, I lose an account that's valued at $2 million a year for my company, right? That's a big hit. That's up to God. If that's what I need to humble me again, that's what's going to happen. I have no control over that either. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that when I'm actively working a step 10 and 11 and 12, like in the step 10 instructions that Bill just read, I get to learn faster, and I get to correct my behavior faster. And that's what I need. You see what I'm saying? That's what God's going to pay me. That's what I need, is to be able to learn from my mistakes faster and correct them and get back to being helpful, because that's my goal. Love and tolerance is our code, but I'm not always loving and tolerant. And unfortunately now God's given me this desire to be loving. And that means I care a lot. But guess what else that means? When I screw up, it hurts me in my soul. I get anxiety about it. And that Bill was talking about, we get enough of that anxiety and we don't have a relationship with God. We drink, right? We use. And you okay? Yeah, okay, good. And that's just not an option for me anymore. So I have to stay in the solution. I have to try and be better. And so when I've been saying the prayer in theory every morning, because I've lost my way a little bit, right? In theory, I'm saying, okay, God, you know, Creator, I want you to have me all of me, you know, relieve me of the bondage of self. I say the 7 prayer in theory. And this week, I actually felt it. I actually was so anxious. I was losing sleep. I actually got my wife to hold me for a few minutes, because that's the only way to quiet my brain down sometimes, right? And I realized how sick I'd become. And so I got on my knees, and literally this time on my knees. And I'm talking this week, you guys, right? I've never claimed to be this friggin' guru. I'm just a dope fiend. I'm trying to live a good life, you know, and help others. And I got down on my knees and I said, sorry, I did it again. I did it again. Show me what you need me to see. And all of a sudden yesterday, I get a call from my VP of restoration. He says, don't worry, we got your back. We're going to come to that meeting. You're far too valuable to lose. Like, relieved that pressure. Just enough. Didn't change the fact that I have to change my behavior with this guy. But God relieved that pressure that I wanted to explode, right? That is practical application. It's hard to see. It's hard to see because God, how do you prove that shit? I'm telling you right now, that's how it's proven to me all over and over again. I look backwards in my life, and as recent as this week, I'm telling you, I'm sharing this story with you, that's how God shows up for me. He didn't make it all better. I still got to have the meeting. But a kind word from someone that I respected was enough to relieve the pressure so that I could go on with my day. And I could start being better. Feel me? I don't know. That was a long story, but I hope I didn't take it too far. But that's what I wanted to share about this. That's all I wanted to share. That's the promise. That is the promise. When you sincerely take such a position, all sorts of remarkable things follow. I got to experience one of those remarkable things this week. I have a new employer. He's all powerful, and he provides me with what I need, but not always what I want. What I want is for that guy to be fired, so I don't ever have to deal with him again. But that's not going to happen because he saves that company a lot of money every time he beats me down, right? That's never going to happen. I don't get what I want. I get what I need. Enough calm and centeredness to deal with them in a better way, right? Anyway, that's all I've got. I think we're close to break.
Okay. When you don't have a job and you get a call to get a job, you have an interview. I see it on Facebook all the time. Oh, I got the call. Everyone pray for me that I get this job. I never pray for them.
Me either.
Because I don't know if that's God's will.
Yeah.
I pray that they get whatever it is that they need, whatever be thy will. And then they come back on, I didn't get the job. Fucking life sucks. And I'm like, no, man, that's not how, look at it from the perspective of that wasn't meant for you. And maybe down the road, like Gord said, you'll look back and go, thank God I didn't get that job, right? That's really how this works. And when life becomes your teacher, then nothing's out of place. And then your whole mindset starts shifting because everything's exactly the way that it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So you don't go into the self-pity, you don't go into the remorse and the resentment. And so all those negative emotions, they're not even there because you've twisted it and went, yeah, that's the way it should have been. Well, I guess I got to take another step. I wonder what God's trying to teach me here. Fuck God, I really hope you fucking, But it changes everything, right? And God's not a theory when you take that approach. Anyway, let's take...
Who wanted to be a counselor when they came into recovery? Yeah, me too. Nobody would hire me. And I'm telling you, nobody would hire me. And it pissed me off because they were hiring my sponsees. I'm like, what? Years later, I'm now a director on the board for that facility, right? I don't know God's plan, but it's beautiful. And I get to show up in helpful ways in different levels, right? It's pretty cool. But I couldn't understand back in those days, why wouldn't nobody hire me? I'm a good guy. You're hiring my sponsees. I'm the one that read the book with these guys. It's not in the plan. It wasn't in my plan. And I'm glad today, like you said, that's a perfect example of what he just said. I'm happy that I didn't get those jobs. Yeah. For the break.
Let's take 10. We'll do 10. We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting BILLWARDLIFE and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast.
All right. Get down upon your knees and say to your Maker as you understand him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Think well before taking this step. Be sure you are ready, that you can at last abandon yourself utterly to him. It is very desirable that you make your decision with an understanding person. It may be your wife, your best friend, your spiritual advisor, but remember, it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. You must decide this for yourself. The wording of your decision is, of course, quite optional. So as long as you express the idea, voicing it without reservation, this decision is only a beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, will be felt at once. Next, we launch out on a course of vigorous action. Okay. So, I've got very short comments about this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read that prayer in my own words for you. Okay? God, I offer my life to you because I have burned it to the ground in the past and I do not want to do it again. Build me. Show me who to be. Build character in me. Teach me how to be a better human being and do your will, which I know today is being effective and helpful to God and my fellows. Help me do your will, because that's what it is. Show me where I need to show up for others. Relieve me of the bondage. Well, what does that mean, God? The bondage of self? In other words, help me quit being so bloody selfish. Please help me to not be so self-seeking, to not be dishonest, to not be so frightened all the time. And when you do that, maybe that opens me up to be a better giver of what you need given. Maybe if you help me not be as selfish, God, I can help more people. Take away my defects of character. Take away my desire for selfish things. So that victory over them, that the improvement to my character shows up when people look at me and they see a much better person than they knew before. And that will help people understand that God's power and God's love is a way of life worth living. Please help me show up and be helpful for the rest of my life. That's how I understand this step. I'm not telling you that's how you should understand it, but that is how I understand this prayer. God, show me where I'm wrong. Take it from me so that when people see me improve, I become more helpful. Period. I understand the next part of this is being ready to take this step, being ready to offer myself to God completely. But you know what? At this point in the recovery, at step 3, if some of us here are in early recovery, I just talked to a guy for 10 minutes at the break with 30 days. You know, you're probably not going to be entirely ready. And that's okay. You probably don't understand what being abandoning yourself utterly to Him actually means. And that's okay. Because the next thing we do is launch out on a course of vigorous action. So in this step, We just make a decision to keep going. And we allow ourselves a simple gift, and that is time. Time to learn about ourselves, time to get rid of the blockages, time to let God do his work in me. And time to grow, to understand this step completely. Maybe never completely, I don't know, but I feel like I understand it today for me enough. And I hope to learn more. The decision is only a beginning. It is very, very important to understand that. Because if we don't keep going, we will fail. If I didn't keep going, I failed. And I proved that over 27 years, time and time again, ending up on the streets of Maine and Hastings, getting out of that, ending up in jail, getting out of there, changing my life through willpower and self-knowledge and growing a life, only to have it all pulled down on me again. I've done the dance, you guys. I can't tell you enough. I've done this dance just about any way it can be danced. And every single time it has failed me miserably until I decided to make a beginning and put action in, to listen to people that knew better than me. That was a lot of pain that I had to be humbled by. 27 years of it before I finally was humbled enough to need God. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Gord. So just kind of touching base on that prayer again, you know, in the original manuscript, it talks about like getting down upon your knees. Whenever I do sponsorship, we do get on our knees. I get the person to say this right out of the book. I always try to stay in the book. Say that prayer right out of the book in your own words, and they'll do that. And I say it again in your own words. And I'll do it too. I say it out of the book, and then I say it in my own words. And then we are in for a long talk about what this prayer is. And when you think about step 10, you know, we're kind of looking at where was I selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate, afraid, whatever. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Usually it's something outside that'll trigger my emotions on the inside. And then I follow that step 10 process, and then I don't get what I want, right? Kind of going against the nature of how I operate in the world through that step 10 process. And when we look at step 3, it says, God, I offer myself to thee. And when you think about an offering, it's just, here I am. I'm ready-ish. I'm making an offering for you to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. So when you think about the building part, first we have to tear down the old because we're the thing that's going to be rebuilt. So we need to be torn down. So the tear down is very fucking painful. And so if you think about, like, let's say this church gymnasium, if it was to get renoed, right? There's wires running along that top baseboard, and there's all these tiles, like everything needs to be taken out on a renovation. So what happens is the workers come in here and they start prying and ripping and peeling up floors, and, you know, behind the walls they're finding mold and, you know, water leakage and all sorts of shit. And there's the old wiring and the old plumbing, that shit's got to come out. And so if the building had feelings, it would be fucking in pain. So that's like what we're going to go through this process is we're going to be rebuilt. First, we got to get demoed. Like the old foundation of his life has to be torn out and built upon a new bedrock. So I have to allow for this tear down. And the tear down is my old ideas, emotions, and attitude, emotional displacements and rearrangements. These have been the guiding forces of the way I've run my life. The problem with me as an alcoholic is as I run on that basis of life like I always have, my brain's already tricked to need relief, and it needs it now. What's always given it to me? A drink. And then I pick up against my will. And then I put it in my body and the allergy takes over and I'm fucked for a day, week, months, or years. So we need this for that to stop, for sure. And the only way to get that done, the best way that I've seen, is through the steps. And so as we get torn down, as we find mold in the back corner of our minds, and we scrape that mold out, and we rip out the old wiring, and we rip out the old floors and stuff of our being, it's very painful. But if you can accept that and do it willingly, it's way less painful. The problem with the ego is it doesn't want to give up what it already knows and what it's protecting. So it doesn't really want to give up those things. So that's where the real fucking pain comes from. And that's where the resistance will come from. Build with me, do with me as thou wilt, as God will. Relieve me of the bondage of self. We will learn about what the bondage of self is in the step 4. We will have a beginning understanding of the bondage of self, and how if you think of bondage, it's like I'm tied. I'm tied. So maybe you went through a trauma when you were young, right? I'm going to use an example of a woman. Maybe a man abused her when she was a younger woman or something. And then that trauma becomes the way that she tries to protect herself for her whole life. So she won't interact with men, and she won't go here, and she won't look at men. And, you know, men are half of society, right? And so all of the things that this woman does in her life are actually the bondage of her own protection to try to not get hurt again. Understandable. But in the same breath, who wants to live in a fucking prison like that, right? And the nice thing about the program is it allows us to use our experiences, no matter what it is, to serve. And most people that have went through whatever they've went through, they usually don't talk about it. The first time anyone ever talked about anything was here, coming here, and you finally maybe trusted a sponsor enough, or maybe you found that courage intuitively in a meeting and you can't even believe you said that thing. So what this place allows for us to do is to we start the relief valve of repressed emotion. Some of it, you know, you're pressing down, and that's where it begins. So we start talking about it. It's like a relief valve. And as we relieve all the stuff that we've pushed down knowingly, the stuff that we don't know that's been pushed down, it has a chance to come out as well. But if we don't at least start speaking about it and releasing what we know we can, then the stuff that we can't see never gets released because it's held down by the stuff that we pressed down, right? So the bondage of self holds us into prisons, right? And it also lies within ideas that we think are good for us. I was talking to, what's your name there again? With the hoodie that, yeah. Tiana. So we were talking, and she was saying that she wasn't really willing to give up some of the things on her journey. If that's okay for me to share, and that's everybody.
It is everybody.
But I always say, think about the things that you know are bad in your life, or the ideas that you want to get rid of, or the judgments or the fear or whatever. But also look at the things that you think are good in your life and ask yourself, are they serving you? Right? Because those things are just as blocking of God as the things that you think are bad. The only difference is you think that they're good, so you don't even look at them. Right? And so we got to examine all aspects. G, did you want to say something, bro?
Okay.
There you go.
So what do you do when you know these old ideas that you want to relinquish, and you have this level of awareness that, or even if you think you have this level of awareness, and the good and the bad, and then you wonder to yourself, we look at the good, or the good things that are good ideas, basically. We think it's good, but then we don't really actually take the time to process or see what is good for us and what is not good for us. And even if it's a good, maybe it's good for you think it's good for yourself, but then you have another individual that basically tells you, I don't know if this is going to be of benefit. And then I know it's I don't know really, just about allow the time to grow as a person of God, right? because you're turning it over, and because this is basically the third step prayer, right? And you have all these old ideas, and what if like your life is, yes, you're not in the chaos of alcoholism or addiction, but and you have things in your life within the realm of like, yeah, you have a, like for instance, for myself, like I have a job, I have a family, I have all these gifts, but then the process of like tearing the old you, and like you go through that process of a teardown of who you are because you want to be, how would I say, like better, yeah, you know, like you're basically trying to be like what God wants you to be, right? And you know, when you like, I still remember when I first came in, where, you know, being a street kid to, well, a street young person, whatever, right? But now that you have all these things and you're realizing that, holy crap, you know, have I really turned myself over to something greater than myself, like to God, basically, right? And that ego, like, what is that ego, right? Because how do you actually know if it's ego or pride or all these, you know, layers of things, right? And then, you know how you say like action and humility, right? Because for change, it may be painful, and because I don't know, maybe I heard it from you or maybe I heard it from somebody else, but humility is, we hear humility, it's like being humble, but then also is it a form of humiliation, right? But can the humiliation be presented in a way that it's like, is the humiliation supposed to be, how would I say it, like, is it supposed to be like a way of beating yourself down, let's say spiritually, emotionally, like physically? Well, we're physically humiliated, but emotionally and mentally you're wondering to yourself, it's like, like how much can someone take? And the pain, if it's enough, you know, it's just basically, I look at it as, it's like the pain is there, and your ego is telling you, hey, like you got to protect yourself right now. We go back to that ego, right? To protect ourselves. We don't want to feel this or that, you know, like, do you get a gist of what I'm trying to say? Or
I think I do.
You don't? Or
no, I think I do.
Like, and even just when you say about like practical application as a process for learning, like, I know this is going to be a continuous thing for the rest of my life. And I really wonder to myself, it's like, like when you catch yourself, it's like, oh, this isn't right, right? And then I would just say, I don't know, I wrote down like, help me show up. Like, I don't know, my brain's going, but at the same time, it's like, it's an action for this step, right? But how do you actually follow through? Because like we say, you know, we're all alcoholics and addicts in here. You know, we have a good talk, but basically we're full of shit sometimes too, right? And actually, how do you pursue that action without basically like taking your will back? Like, you know what I mean? It's like we say the third step prayer, but do we actually genuinely mean it too?
Okay.
Sorry,
that's good. And I appreciate you trying to articulate all the feelings. There's a good reason why you're doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't even know.
And that's really important, that you're getting something out. And as you're speaking, you're articulating the feelings and the struggle and all the things, and that's how we do it, right? That's how we do it. And so when we talk about humility, the most important part about humility is why I stress it is the desire to change. So in the book, it talks about the ingredient of all humility, the desire to seek and do God's will, was missing. So what we got to do is we got to try to make this desire to change, to seek and do God's will, and have it not be missing. And if I can get that desire to change, like in my being where I really want to change, then the process of going through this change, you will accept the humiliation and the pain. And the humiliation oftentimes is just living life and acting out in the defect of character and suffering the fucking consequences and going, holy shit, am I ever embarrassed? Holy shit, do I ever look to others like I am this certain way? And so that humility, that painful humiliation is necessary. But now to like change that, that's where the pain comes in, because you can't just change it because you want to, right? And so I'll say it like this. How do we change when the ego is trying to protect us and we really want to change? I'm going to go to step 6, because step 6 is a huge part of that 10 process. Any person capable of enough willingness, am I fucking willing, and honesty to try repeatedly, continue. Step 6, on all his faults without reservation has indeed come a long way spiritually. So as we are willing to try repeatedly, step 6, on all the faults, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. This isn't like we do this some of the time. And as you don't do this some of the time and you do it all the time, you'll fucking change. But if you only do it when you fucking feel like it or when there's enough pain, there's a long fucking road around to this fucking thing called humility. So it's really important to be disciplined on the processes in the book and do them over and over and over. And really it boils down to, am I willing to fucking change? And that's not really all because I want to change and make that decision. My subconscious is so fucking powerful, and its desire to protect me and its desire to try to meet my emotional needs and emotional security is so fucking powerful. That's why I need this power. So I got to align my will with God's will. I constantly got to ask every morning, God, how can I fucking live this life the best way? Please show me what my next steps are to be. Please put the people and the situations in my path that allow me to heal. And then life is the healer. And then everything in your path is a fucking lesson if you're willing and honest to do what the processes are. Part of that is speaking like you did. In the step 10, we talk to somebody immediately. By me talking to somebody, I can always see shit I can't see. Even if they don't point it out to me, it's like, fuck. I was just selfish and I owe them an amend. Fuck them. Jesus. I've been working on that. And like Gord said earlier, you know what? It's okay to fuck up. The thing about step 6 and step 7, which is what we're really talking about, is if you're really trying to fucking change, fucking up doesn't matter. Because you're trying to change. But if you're fucking up and you know you're fucking up, you know you're fucking up. That's what's not okay. But if you're really trying to change and you make a mistake, you didn't make a mistake. You made a decision that you learned and you grew from. But if you're not trying to learn and grow, then now we're making mistakes. That's the step that separates the men from the boys. The boys are going to just do what gets them by and still take what they fucking want for their ego. And the man is going to try repeatedly, step 6, on all his faults without reservation and really try. And at that point, you might embarrass yourself through the humiliation of an action. But at that point, you don't even care what people are thinking or saying because you know you're trying. And so that outside judgment doesn't affect you like it did before. So it's processes, willingness, and awareness. If you got the awareness, like you said, that's key. Fucking next thing, that's the most important thing is to identify the most important thing. The most important thing at first is awareness. Without awareness, nothing fucking happens. And then the most important thing is to identify the next most important thing and make it the most important thing, which is fucking willingness. And then the next important thing and the most important thing to make the most important thing is honesty, which you said we're not capable of honesty on our own because we can rationalize and justify the most errant bullshit to suit any action in our life and any inaction. And then I got to remember I'm driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion. So then I use these tools and I don't stop. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, man. But they will always materialize. But we got to work for them. Can't wait for God saying, okay, fucking just bonk me on the head and change my life. Right?
And I think it's very important to comment on your last question. Like, how do we know? Like, I can go out and try and do the right thing and force myself to show up and force myself to be better. But how isn't that self-will is what you asked, right? And now we're going to jump back to step 10, okay? And it says it on page 85. It took me a second to find it because I'm not like Bill. I don't memorize shit like he does. But it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. Laurels meaning accomplishments of yesterday, okay? So today I have to be in the moment. Today I have to continually try and be a better guy and be helpful today. Because what I did yesterday is gone. Doesn't matter anymore. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Now that's a foreboding. That's a warning, right? Got to keep up the work every day. Now here it says, every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. Now we're going to talk about the question that you asked. How do I know it's not my will? Well, it is, and that's okay because your will's changing. How can I best serve thee? This is me saying this to God when I'm in these moments. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Your will, God, not mine, because my will sucks, but I'm trying to change my will. I want my will to be in line with your will. The next sentence is, these are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. This is the proper use of our will. If I am willing myself to be kind and helpful and loving and tolerant, that is what my proper will is. That is what the goal is. That's the psychic change, people. Remember we talked about the psychic change in a complete psychic change in the doctor's opinion? That's what it is. My brain starts to want to be naturally helpful without really having to will it. It becomes my will.
Okay, I'm just going to finish off that prayer. Take away my difficulties so that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Gord talked about the difficulties. Most people, when they first come into the program, it's like, take away my difficulties. And it's like, yeah, please take away my fucking problems. No, the difficulties are your defects of character that cause your problems. The thing about defects of character that causes your failure is you don't know that they do that because you've only lived your life one way and that's just all you know. So until you expose those defects, ideas, emotions, and attitudes in your four and be able to see the beginning of them, you don't see how they actually cause your failure. So we ask God to take away these difficulties so that victory over them. That's an important line. It's insinuating that there's a fight here. If I'm going to be victorious over something, what's losing? Well, that's what step 10 is about. You know what the principle behind step 10 is? Anyone? Perseverance. What does that mean? It means to fight through. What are you fighting through? You're fighting through the thing that is your difficulty, which is the defect that always wants to fucking claw its way back in. That's why the process of fucking being aware of that defect or whatever it is, going to God because God's number one, talking to somebody immediately because they can give you more counsel on that defect and maybe some other things and point you back to God. Make your amend quickly if you have harmed anyone because you don't want to carry that into tomorrow. And then you resolutely turn your thoughts to someone you can help. That part is so fucking important. So as victory over them. It's a fucking fight, and it's like a millimeter by millimeter fight sometimes with some of these things. The thing is you don't stop. Because as you keep going, you continue. On a meter yardstick, a millimeter is hard to see. But as you see 10 millimeters, you're like, holy shit, I can see that. But you keep doing this over a year's time. Let's say that yardstick's like this, and you got to get over 50%. Fucking you keep doing it, eventually that yardstick tips, and now you're on the other side and it gets easier. That's like 3 years in, 2 years in. It depends on your state of willingness to actually want to change. It depends on your state of fucking your channel cleared that's telling you what's right and wrong and what you know you are fucking not looking at or giving up, right? And like I said last time, I know people that have jobs and they have a lot of money and they will never get like higher than where they're getting because they're blocked by something that they will never give up. There's too much fear there. There's too much status in it. There's too much financial security in these things. And there's people in relationships that are too afraid to give up the relationship and they will never grow. They will never grow up out of that. And then if they ever lose that relationship, chances are, boom, they're fucking in another one. Because they don't have the power to choose whether they get in a relationship or not. And some people's conscious and subconscious fears are so afraid to look at the truth of these things that they fucking won't do the step 4 or the deep inner work. Or whatever work after the step 4. Because really the first step 4 is like really, fuck, that's a skim of the surface. The real fucking where it reveals is the step 10. And then another step 4, 5, 2 years later. Step 10, step 10, step 10, step 10. Step 10 is what reveals the shit. Because you're constantly peeling back layers of fear and you're allowing shit to come up. And I'll tell you, if you don't run a good program and deal with the shit as the shit comes up, the shit will fucking deal with you. Guaranteed. I see it all the time. That's why most people don't make 2 years. That's why most people don't make 5 years. Because they don't know how to deal with the shit. God knows how to deal with the shit. I'll have the tools to deal with the shit. But a promise of step 11 is it becomes a working part of the mind. You come to rely upon it. It gets so easy, man. Like today I still fuck up, right? But I don't struggle. This shit's like a working part of my mind for the most part. Where I need help right now is I need a fucking sponsor. Because I see myself making dumb decisions in my life because I can do that. Because I'm an alcoholic.
Are you asking?
I want to stay sober. But, you know, we got everything we need here in the 12 steps. Like it's like an earth stripper. It just keeps stripping it down. But I hate it, or I hate hearing when people say, oh, the 12 steps only do this. No, dude, I've seen the 12 steps do fucking everything, man. If you understand what it's actually saying and doing. And so when we get into step 6, which won't be next session, but it'll be probably the session after, it's the longest piece. It's probably 6 hours because we want to know what the defects are, where the cunningness, where the dishonesty is. We'll spend many hours in step 6. We'll be reading the step 4 and the 12 and 12. And you'll see yourself in a lot of what we're going to do in the step 6. So we're pretty much done, unless you got anything else.